Hey there, welcome back to another video. This time around, it is my review of the 2011 animated live action holiday fantasy film Hop. Now, Hop is a film that I do remember seeing advertisements for when it was initially released in 2011. And I was not really that enthusiastic about it. I thought it looked pretty lame, so I never even bothered to really watch it. Also, I was a young adult at that time, so I was no longer in the target demographic for that kind of movie, and it just never really interested me. The concept, the idea of it, I was never really a big fan of Easter, the holiday. So it wasn't one of those things where I was like, "Oh man, an Easter movie! I can't wait to watch that." So I went into this with really low expectations, and for the most part, it it still was unable to get over the low bar that I set for it. This was like eating stale Easter candy, like a stale Easter bunny, and you're just having to like grin and bear it in front of your family, and you're like, this bunny is so good, even though the chocolate tastes like crap, or oh, these jelly beans, I really like them, but they taste bad. Like that. That's really what it's like. Watching and sitting through Hop. Now, before I get around to sharing more of my thoughts on the film, I want to give a special shout out to Robert for requesting this video. And if there is another film, TV show, or topic that you would like to see me discuss in the future, feel free to donate to either my PayPal, my Patreon, or my Cash App. The link to all three is in the video description down below. And I will try to get to your request as soon as I possibly can. Now, Hop is directed by Tim Hill. Now, Tim Hill, prior to this, he did the Alvin and the Chipmunks movie, the first CGI animated one, Garfield, A Tale of Two Kitties, Max Keeble's Big Move, Muppets from Space. I would say Max Keeble and Muppets from Space were better than Hop. Um, his direction in this, it's really not that great. It's very uninspired and flat and doesn't really have the energy that I think an Easter a film should have. Like it seems like something that should have like the energy of somebody who is all jacked up on jelly beans and chocolate, but the direction really doesn't have that energy to it. So there's a lot of moments in the film where it just feels like it's very lackadaisical, a little too laid back, kind of lazy when it comes to the framing or when it comes to how he shot other scenes. Um, there are some wide shots, there are some tighter shots in this that do an okay job in terms of showing the size and scope of Easter Island and so on and so forth. But there's a lot of shots in this that just lack a certain amount of energy and a certain rush, which is what I feel a film like this should have. There are shots in this that remind me of like Santa Claus the movie from the 80s. And I really think that's the kind of visual style and vibe that works for this movie about the Easter Bunny and about Easter. Also, there's a lot of moments in this that are just purely CGI, and those really don't look that great. And especially the scenes that are combining CGI with live action, It's just a very awkward looking film at points because it's just this weird, okay, 2011 CGI animation mixed with a live action, and they haven't really quite really perfected everything yet. And it's the same kind of vibe that I get with the Alvin and the Chipmunks movie and the Garfield movies, the live action ones. And I just don't know why this was even live action to begin with. It really didn't add anything to this movie. I think it would have been better off, in all honesty, as a completely CGI animated movie, and maybe with a different director as well. Because Tim Hill, like, what he directed some animated stuff for sure. You know, he worked on Kablam, which I'm a big fan of, and you know, he was a storyboard artist and story editor on the SpongeBob SquarePants movie. Um, and you know, he did work on that kind of stuff, but I don't really think that he was necessarily the best fit for uh, a movie that has a lot of CGI animated sequences in it. It's not like Garfield: A Tale of Two Kitties, where it's entirely live action for the most part, except for Garfield and his twin. And it's not like the direction in that was that great either. So it just seemed like a bad fit. And then you have the screenplay by Cinco Paul, Ken Dario, and Brian Lynch, based on a story by Cinco Paul and Ken Dario. And this script is not really that special, not that unique. It really reminds you of other holiday films that dealt with the same kind of thing, where you have somebody who's slated to be the next in line. Okay, they're slated to be the next Santa Claus, or they're slated to be the next Easter Bunny when it comes to this plot, and they don't want to do it. They don't like being forced into this responsibility. They want to go and chase their dreams. So then they wind up doing something else. And that's what you have with Hop. EB, the Easter Bunny. He doesn't want to be the Easter Bunny. He just wants to play his drums and be a star, and doesn't care about all of that. Doesn't understand the responsibility. Doesn't understand the importance of it. Doesn't really care about it nearly as much as his dad does. So, and his dad is very forceful and doesn't understand EB and his wishes and what he wants to do with his life. So EB runs away, and then EB winds up staying at this house that uh, uh, Fred O'Hare is staying at, or he's house sitting at, because he needs the money and needs the work, because he's a slacker, lives with his parents, and doesn't do anything other than playing video games, and he's always waiting for the right job, oh, and the right fit. And he saw the Easter Bunny when he was a kid, because you saw a flashback to when he was a kid, seeing the Easter Bunny. And it was this magical thing that always stuck with him. So once he winds up running into the Easter Bunny here, EB, and he realizes that it's a real thing, he then sees it as an opportunity for him to become the Easter Bunny, which I definitely did find a little bit weird, but okay. It gives him purpose in life, and that's his whole arc, is that he finds purpose finally by being the Easter Bunny, or being a co-Easter Bunny. And I'm like, all right, cool, good for you, Fred. But the whole thing with Fred, okay, he finds purpose doing this, but he's still not really taking that much responsibility. He's still not, the arc seems like it's still not really finished. Okay, he goes in and gets captured and then escapes and then does his part to save the Easter Bunny and to save Easter. in the finale of the film, but now he's a co-Easter bunny. But what else is he gonna be doing for the rest of his life? What else is he gonna be doing for the other days that don't involve Easter? Is he gonna be slacking off again, playing video games? Oh, well, I don't have to worry about all of that because I'm the co-Easter bunny. As long as he's getting paid, he's not getting paid to be the co-Easter bunny, so he still needs an actual job, and he doesn't have one by the end of the movie. So I don't understand this script. I really don't. The messaging seems a little bit confused, and so does a lot of the other story arcs. I don't like EB either. EB is your typical teenager who's got the teenage angst and is like, "Oh, my parents just don't understand me," that kind of thing. And he just seems like a total slacker. And unlike Fred, who finally, actually does something about and actually decides to take a risk and be a co-Easter bunny, the only reason why EB does it is because it's tradition or something. It doesn't even seem like his shift as a character feels like it's actually something that makes a whole lot of sense for his character when it comes to the way that he's been portrayed for the majority of the movie as this selfish teenager who just wants to play drums and be a big star. He gives that all up in the end to be the Easter bunny, even though he doesn't really want to do it and it's not really something that is fully in his heart. He gives it all up and then goes back to Easter Island to help Fred and to help his father. The most compelling plot in this really has to do with the villain, to be honest. Carlos, this chick who is working for the Easter Bunny, and he is trying to help the Easter Bunny initially. Like, he wants to help him because he's heading for retirement and his son is next in line, but his son doesn't want to do it. And he knows that his son doesn't want to do it. And his son is a slacker. So he's like, "Hey, I'll do it. I'll help you." But the Easter Bunny's like, "No, you can't do it. You're a chick. Chicks can't be Easter bunnies. That's ridiculous." So in a lot of ways, you sympathize more with the villain than you do your hero, which is a problem. That's a problem when it comes to the script. I sympathize more with Chick than I do with EB because EB, I'm like, you're just a slacker. You're just a slacker, wants to slack off, doesn't want to take responsibility, doesn't want to take on the mantle, doesn't want to do any of these things. You don't even think about the effect that it would have if you choose not to be the Easter Bunny on all of your friends, all of your family, and your father in particular, and all the other kids and everybody else who's waiting for their Easter baskets and Easter eggs and all of this other stuff. You don't really think about the weight of all of that. You're just selfish and want to go play drums. So, but with Chick, you're like, oh, it seems like he's sincere initially. It seems like he doesn't really necessarily want to take over and take over everything by force. It seems like at first he just sincerely wants to help, but he gets ignored by the Easter Bunny's dad, and then he just becomes bitter, and then he winds up taking over and gets the staff and gets the Easter Bunny powers, and it turns him into this creepy, weird combo of an Easter Bunny and a chick. And he is then relegated to being a part of the chicks who fly the Easter bunny sled around. It's very much like a sleigh, and the chicks are like the reindeer. And in all honesty, yeah, he did a bad thing later on, but you still kind of feel for him. Now he's like this weird freak, and now he's being forced to essentially be a a work mule in a lot of ways for the Easter bunnies. Like, yeah, I honestly kind of feel for him and the chicks, to be honest, because it does seem like they're being taken advantage of by the Easter bunnies. It's not. It's the script does a bad job here. It really does when it comes to making the villains seem like they're in the wrong. You're kind of like, well, I mean, yeah, it goes about it the wrong way, but if the Easter Bunny just listened to him and gave him a chance, then maybe none of this would have ever happened. But I guess they said that, okay, well, he can't really do it because, because the whole thing that'll make him half bunny, half chick or whatever. But regardless, maybe there could have been something that was a workaround because they clearly made a workaround for Fred. He's a co-Easter bunny and he doesn't become half man, half bunny. So like I don't I don't get it. I don't understand. And there's this whole thing with Fred and his dad that's really lame because his dad's like, "Oh, you suck. You haven't gotten a job. You haven't done anything yet with your life. I'm so disappointed in you." And Fred just wants his dad to be proud of him. And then out of nowhere, once his dad sees that he's the co-Easter bunny, he's like, "I'm so proud of you, son." Like, really? Really? That's not a real job. So I don't really, it doesn't seem like that kind of shift for his dad makes a whole lot of sense. And there's these weird jokes too about Easter bunnies crap being jelly beans, which I'm like, that's a crappy joke. No pun intended. And there's this stuff with these pink berets who are these super talented or um, really adept bunnies who are like the green berets or like the Navy SEALs for Easter bunnies, but they just don't really do much. They're supposed to be so good, and all they do is like knock some people out at the Playboy Mansion, which, yes, that is a repeated gag in this too. References to the Playboy Mansion in a kids movie, which I'm like, that is bizarre. And yeah, the pink berets go around and they shoot people with darts and make them pass out, but there's really not a whole lot that they do in this. And for the pink berets who were marketed pretty heavily for this movie, seems like they really didn't give them that much to do. They show up, I think, like halfway through the movie and are maybe in it for like a few minutes, and then they get defeated by by Carlos rather easily in the finale too. So it seems like they really aren't that skilled. And there's this other stuff with other human characters like Samantha, who's Fred's sister, but she's not utilized very well. David Hasselhoff as himself, which is weird. This whole thing with a video game company and James going to an interview for it, and then that doesn't go anywhere because it just wasn't a good fit. And because he's destined to be the Easter Bunny. That's why. Which, by the way, that is also given away in the opening of the movie. So it's not even that a surprise at the end because there's narration from Fred talking about this is how I became the Easter Bunny. I'm like, why would you do that? That completely ruins the twist at the end. It makes it into something that isn't a surprise, and any amount of intrigue or compelling narrative you could get out of it is lost because you already know that he's going to be the co-Easter bunny. That'd be like if in the beginning of the Santa Claus, it has narration from Tim Allen as Santa Claus talking about this is how I became Santa Claus. But that's not what it does. Because it just completely would negate all of the tension and drama in the movie. So I don't understand these screenwriters' decisions. I don't understand what they did with this. The rock and roll stuff just feels very forced and doesn't really feel like a good fit. And neither does the friendship that builds between Fred and EB. Like, why should they be friends? It seems like all EB does is mooch off of Fred or ruin things, like ruins his interview with the video game company. Oh, the whole thing with Fred helps him get to the audition and cheers him up and tells him to EB to go out there and do his thing and is inspiring for him. But why? It doesn't seem like there's enough of a give and take between the two characters. EB is written in a way where he's very immature and honestly very obnoxious and unlikable. And Fred isn't much better either. The slacker that he is. You got two slackers who don't really have necessarily a heart of gold. That's not a good combo. Those aren't good leads for any story. So, yeah, there's just not a lot to like about this script. I don't like a lot of the characters. What they do with the whole Easter stuff isn't really that clever or that interesting or that fun most of the time. Uh, it's got a weird tone that at points really doesn't fit for the kind of movie that I think it's trying to be. And like I said, the most compelling and interesting story arc is not even from the two lead characters. It's the villain. So yeah, I did not like this script, and it's a big part of why I did not like this movie. And I know it's a kids film, but they can do better than this. This Illumination films have done better than this. Even the Despicable Me movies, as much as I despise the Minions, the scripts did a better job in terms of their characterization than what was featured here in Hop. And the cast, it's not really that great either. James Marsden, I don't really like him as a lead in this. He seems miscast, out of place. It always seems like he's making an awkward face and, grinning and bearing it throughout the entire movie. Definitely seemed like a role that he took for a paycheck and not much more than that. Easily one of the most lazy, uninspired performances that I've seen from James in anything. He did a much better job working alongside Sonic and Sonic the Hedgehog. Uh, Kaley Cuoco from The Big Bang Theory is Samantha. She's just doing her Big Bang Theory role, but in Hop. That's all it is. Gary Cole who played his dad, very cliched, stern dad who's like, "Oh, you better get your act together, son." Just very bland performance by him. Elizabeth Perkins as the mom, like what a waste. Elizabeth Perkins from Big, and like she's stuck in this role where she's just there to be like, "Oh, you're too hard on Fred," or "Fred, you have to get something. You have to get a job. You have to get going. You have to move out of the nest." Like, not a great performance, but then again, a bad role. Like, she has nothing to do here except be a cliched mom, and that's it. Alex is like Fred's adoptive younger sister, played by Tiffany Eppenson. She's barely in it. I don't really know what to say. David Hasselhoff plays himself and is just as convincing as he is in anything. Which is funny. Like when he plays himself, it seems like he's acting. Like it seems like he's still playing a fictional character, but he's supposed to be playing himself. That's just the kind of guy Hasselhoff is, apparently. The guy can't be natural at all. Chelsea Handler, I like her as an actress. I think she's really funny. I think her talk show was honestly one of the best things on E when E still was, actually airing a lot of stuff and was actually more of a thing. But this is a nothing role for her. Just some video game company rep, and Doesn't really do anything funny either. Just there. Russell Brand as EB. I did not like his voiceover as EB. It's a big part of why I don't like EB as a character is because of the way that Russell Brand voiced it and the fact that it's played by Russell Brand, who is a creep. He's a creep and a dick in real life. And he plays an Easter bunny who is honestly a massive prick. Really, this Easter bunny sucks. I don't like this Easter bunny. He's selfish, he's obnoxious, he's not funny, and I don't buy any of the heartfelt moments with him because Russell Brand does not have that range. They really did a bad job casting here. Russell Brand should not have been cast as EB. Really bad casting. And is aged like milk over the years because of how much of a genuine douche Russell Brand has been revealed to be. Hank Azaria, he was the MVP, if you ask me, of this entire cast. I really liked his performance as Carlos. He actually gave it his all. He tried. He did everything he could to make this character work, and he did. I just wish his work was in a much better movie. Hugh Laurie, I like Hugh Laurie as an actor. He was credited as EB's dad, and his performance was meh. Definitely not one of his most memorable performances. That's for sure. And you have Hugh Hefner too, who has a cameo in this. I still don't understand why. It's a kids movie. It was a movie that was marketed for children, strictly for children. I think this movie is like rated. Is it rated PG? I think it might be. I need to check the rating because I'm not entirely sure what this is rated, to be honest. I mean, it can't be more than PG because it's not PG-13 or anything. But I'm just checking the IMDb here real quick. Yeah, it's rated PG. It was PG, and it's supposed to be for kids, and you got Playboy Mansion references. Just weird. Just a weird movie in general, to be honest. The cinematography by Peter Lyons Collister, it's not total crap, but it's not amazing. The editing by Peter S. Elliott and Gregory Perler is fine. The music by Christopher Leonards, it's not something that I feel is worth listening to on its own. It fits the film fine. It fits the style and the vibe of it. It's cheerful, but it's not anything that's really gonna stick with you. And the songs that they used for the film, the licensed tracks that they used for it, that they weren't that great. A lot of "I Want Candy" that they utilized for it, which I don't really understand why. I guess it makes sense because it's Easter, but they did like a weird cover or remix of it, which sucked. I was like, just play the original song. Why do I need to hear like a crappy remix of it with Russell Brand poisoning the song? But I've seen worse films, but this is definitely one of Illumination's weakest and most forgettable films that they've done. And I can see why this is not something that's very fondly remembered by a lot of people. And I can also see why this was the last live action animation hybrid film that Illumination did, because it just was not something that was really their wheelhouse. They weren't really good at it. This is a very prime example of it. This was the first time they tried it, and it was their last. And for a very good reason. They are much better when it comes to doing completely CGI animated movies for families. They're much better doing that than they are trying to do any live action animation stuff. But it could have been worse, I guess. I mean, it wasn't as traumatic or as horrifying as the Easter Bunny scene in Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey, but it also somehow wasn't as good as something like Santa Claus the movie, which is considered to be a really bad movie, and I get it, but there's a certain quality to that this was definitely lacking, even though it was trying to do kind of a similar thing. So, yeah, I don't really know what to say about Hop except thanks for watching my review. And as always, I'll see you later. See ya.